Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the February meeting of the Pickens County Republican Party. We always start with a Pledge of Allegiance. So if you can join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we would ask, if you remain standing for a second, we would ask a former Republican Party Chairman, Walt Owens, Professor Owens, political science professor from Clemson University. He'll lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we are so grateful that we live in a country that is liberty. We have the freedom to come together and share our ideas and our ideals, and then work together toward those ideals. We have an opportunity to keep this country the kind of place that we would like our children and grandchildren to live. We ask that you would be with us tonight as we go about our work of representing ourselves, and that you be with our leaders in public office, give them wisdom, courage, speak the truth, and do what's best for the country. We ask this prayer, dear Lord, in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Professor Owens. Recognize a few folks here tonight. Senator Rex Wright, as always, most always, is with us tonight. Thanks for us. Future candidate for sheriff, Ben Harrison, is with us tonight. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. I hope you're making a regular habit. David, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
My apologies. I'll get it right the next time.
Yes.
Who am I forgetting? At any rate, I'd like to thank all of you. School board, the newest member of the school board, Carla Kelly. Thank you for your service too. A few announcements tonight. Our annual 2-year reorganization, precinct reorganization will be the last Thursday in March, which is the 28th. We will be at the Wesleyan Church, 320 Rice Road in Easley.
United Wesleyan Church. In the Lifeline building.
In the Lifeline building. It's like a fellowship hall. And the makeup meeting will be the following Saturday, March 30th, at the library here in Kimberly Hamilton, Captain Kimberly Hamilton. Hampton. I'm getting names all messed up tonight. Kimberly Hampton Library. The meeting room, just as you go in the front door to the right, we'll be there from 12:30 to 2 on the 30th for the makeup meeting. And our convention will be the last Thursday in April, which is the 25th, April the 25th, and we will be in the same location, the United Wesleyan Church on Rice Road, right down behind the old Alice Manufacturing, right off Highway 8. And I guess I should announce that I will be seeking re-election for one more term as the chairman of the Pickens County GOP, so I would appreciate your support. And I would like to invite all of our current officers to please run for re-election too. Steve is our secretary, John as our president, Elliot as our executive committeeman of Columbia, Daniel as our second vice chairman, and if Gilda was here, I'd invite her to run again as our first vice chair. I understand she will have more time to spend with us, and because she's had family issues to deal with over the last couple of years. So, all of that said, again, thank you all for coming, and I think you'll enjoy hearing from Josiah, Representative Josiah Magnuson. He has been how long have you been in the House now? Is this second term?
Yes.
Starting in third year?
Yes.
And I believe he can give us a pretty good update on what's going on in the House now, the education bill and constitutional carry and all that kind of stuff. And then he'll answer some of your questions. So if you give Josiah.
Thank you, Rick, and it's a privilege to be here. Thank you to the Pickens Republican Party, and appreciate each one of y'all for coming out and being part of the community and taking a stand for what's right, for conservatism and the Constitution. And this is, you know, America runs on community, on people who are willing to be involved and, you know, get out there on an evening. Of course, when you got good food, it makes it a little easier, right? So we're thankful for a good place. You know, this would be not a bad idea for other Republican groups around the state to copy this, have a dinner at the same time as their local meeting. That's a good idea. But anyway, like Rick introduced, my name is Josiah Magnuson. I represent District 38 in northern Spartanburg County. And he just wanted me to kind of come down and tell you a little bit about where some of the fight stands, what we're facing in Columbia right now. And I'll go over several different topics that I think matter to South Carolina conservatives. I want to also thank you to Rex Rice, one of the good guys, and grateful to see Senator Rice here this evening. I always make sure if there's something that comes over from the Senate and there's a few people who vote against it, often Senator Rice is on there, and I'll make sure that if that's the case, you know, you got to double check. We got to make sure. So I appreciate looking to see where he stands on the issues. Been in the House, as Rick said, going on my third year. This is my third year. And I'm very grateful for the privilege of representing my district. It's the Landrum, Campbell, Chesney, Northern Inman area. And, but I've been going to different places around the state. The biggest issue that I've been trying to talk about and explain to people and underscore the importance of is the idea of personhood. The fact that unborn children are living persons from conception, and they should be recognized as such under South Carolina law. And that is my bill, H 3920, that has been introduced in the House, and that bill reflects the language that was introduced by Senator Kevin Bryant. And there's also another bill I've introduced, which is 3289, and that goes into that takes some different language, a little different tack. And then Senator Cash's bill in the Senate, I think it's 415. But basically the idea of personhood is to define life at conception and to say that under the 14th Amendment, we are going to protect, we're going to have equal protection for unborn children. What that would do, if it was passed, is in effect end abortion in South Carolina. And the question is, do we have the courage to do that? Are we really pro-life? Or are we just sort of trying to whittle away at the edges of some of these issues? Because if you look at the Republican Party platform, I don't have a copy with me tonight, but you can look and it says specifically we believe in protecting all life from conception. And so if we believe in all life, then we need to actually support that when we have the opportunity in the State House. And so that's what I'm doing. The 14th Amendment was passed because of the question of what a person is, and there was people that believed that based on a certain skin color, some folks were not persons under the law; they should be recognized as persons. But the 14th Amendment said no matter what your skin color is, you are still a person. You're created in the image of God. You have human rights. Unfortunately, right now we have discrimination not on the basis of skin color. We have discrimination on the basis of age or size, depending on how you want to look at it. Because somebody is a small child in the mother's womb, because they're a young person in the mother's womb, they are not being afforded the same rights. And that is a travesty. And when you see these children that are pulled apart, that are starved to death, that are poisoned, whatever method it may be to murder them, I think you'll understand, you'll get a vision for why we need to end abortion in South Carolina. So that's the Personhood Act. I would encourage you to contact your representatives. Davey Hyatt is a sponsor of the Personhood Act. He's a good friend. You may want to talk to some of your other representatives, Neil Collins or Gary Clary, and ask them to support the Personhood Act. And if they're truly pro-life, I believe they will get on board with that. Another issue that's, of course, a hot topic right now, and Rick Tate mentioned that, is the education reform bill. Education is obviously it's a responsibility of the state under our state constitution. We're to provide an education for students, and we need to make sure that we're doing it correctly. Well, the way that it's been handled for many years has driven South Carolina to the bottom, and something needs to change. So the question is, what needs to change? I'm not convinced yet that the bill that's been put forward is the way that we need to change. I think that it moves us in a good direction. I think that some of the amendments that have been put up are helpful. I'm a little concerned that it just increases state control of education. And more government control is not usually the answer. Usually what the answer is to any problem that we face in society is more liberty, more families, more communities being involved. And I think that that's what you'll find is the more that we have parents involved in education, the more that we have, whether it's school choice, I know various options for school choice, those would be some things that would help us. Also, more local flexibility for school boards, taking away a lot of state mandates, and some of that taking out testing requirements and some of these things that are burdening our students down, and allowing teachers to teach. Some of those things are going to be, I think, what really empowers our students. And instead of having a bill that sort of directs or attempts to direct what jobs a student can go toward and kind of social engineering, I think we create more liberty and more ability for students to be good citizens and know how to think and how to operate in the world. And I think if we get our education system back to those ideas and those values, then I think we're going to be much more on the right track. So those are the things that I'm pushing for, and we're continuing to ask questions about the bill. And again, we've got some good amendments I think that have gone through, but we're going to continue to hopefully get to where we can support that legislation. We got numerous other issues. Of course, constitutional carry was in the hearing this morning. Didn't actually get discussed, but it was scheduled on the calendar. But constitutional carry is the idea that you should be able to carry a gun, a firearm, without government permission. And under the Second Amendment, that should be that is your right, regardless. But it's not necessarily always recognized by the state of South Carolina. And actually, in fact, South Carolina is one of only 5 states in the country that has no form of open handgun carry. The other ones are the great conservative bastions of California, New York, Florida, and Illinois. And so South Carolina stands in that list, which I don't think that's a place we want to be. But unfortunately, we're behind the rest of the country on gun rights. Not a lot of people understand that. But we've got constitutional carry passing in many states out west, and then up in New England we've got plenty of that. So constitutional carry just says we're not going to presume you're a criminal. If we see that you're carrying a weapon, not going to presume that you're a lawbreaker. We're going to presume if you're a citizen, out in public, that you have rights, and we're going to presume that you have liberty. So it's a very simple idea. We're not seeing any crime, spiking or anything in these places that have open carry or that have constitutional carry. We're seeing, in fact, many statistics indicate that crime is actually going down in these places that truly recognize the Second Amendment and your gun rights. So we're going to continue to try to keep South Carolinians safe and continue to press for the true recognition of the Second Amendment in every way. A couple more things. Judicial reform is of course a big issue of mine, and South Carolina, in South Carolina, we're one of only 2 states where the legislature elects judges. that allows for lawyers in the State House and the State Senate to basically go practice in front of judges they help to appoint. It also allows for a lot of sort of backroom deals and lack of transparency in the process. You never really get to know, typically you don't get to know who your legislators are supporting. Because a lot of times what happens is a candidate will be pressured to drop out of the race before a vote is actually ever taken. And so that's a big problem in my opinion. What you'll see is, if you're watching on the TV, it looks like every judge is elected by acclamation, and everybody agreed on that judge. Well, that's not necessarily what's happening. A lot of times it's because the other candidates have been pressured to drop out of the race in advance. So what I support is the appointment of the judges by the governor with advice and consent of the Senate. I know that that's a lot to bite off. That would be a constitutional amendment to the state constitution. The alternative to that, another thing that I proposed though, would be to actually change the Judicial Merit Selection Commission, the initial way that judges are put forward, in order, and the change would be to appoint that commission from all 7 congressional districts in the state. So you have equal representation. Basically, the whole state gets a voice at least on who can become a judge. So that's one. So the popular election of judges is something that I know there's people that support that. The danger on that side, I think you can fall over on the other side of the wagon to politicize the judiciary. You don't want it to be to where whoever gets the most money, gets to be a judge. The judicial system is supposed to be very independent and very, very thoughtful. We don't want this to be sort of a, we live in a republic, not a democracy. And so it's not that we don't want democratic, elections, but we want to have some element of safeguards and such. So that's where there's a balance.
Supposed to be one vote.
That's right. Justice. There's an element of where sometimes, I'm not saying popular elections, I would be completely against that, but just there's a reason why in the U.S. Constitution, for example, we do have the executive appointing the judicial branch with advice and consent of the Senate. I think it would be wise to reflect that sort of a system. So that's my personal position on it. But something does need to be done, and we can look at all the options, and certainly look forward to doing that. Okay, judicial reform. That's pretty much the big ones that I'm concerned about right now. There's so many more we can talk about. We talk about the roads. We still need DOT reform. The system needs to be changed so that we actually can hold some people responsible instead of everybody being able to point fingers at each other, which is what happens now. I guess that's really it. What I would just encourage you all with, and I'll certainly open up for questions, and if anybody has any remarks for me or ideas, be open to that. But what I would encourage you all with is to stay involved. A lot of times people don't understand how much of a voice you have. And we don't really get a whole lot of public input. Surprisingly, we don't get a lot of people to call us or email us. An email is not worth a whole lot. The better thing is to make a phone call or even come down and have a personal visit with somebody. If you go down and personally visit the legislature, you have no idea how much of an impact you can have. And so if you want to advance conservative ideas in South Carolina, that's one of the best things that you can do, is just take a day. I know you have to take off work, but maybe it's worth the sacrifice to come down and talk to somebody, get educated about the issues, but let your voice be heard, and it does matter. Glad that we got some young people here tonight too. When I was about 12 or 13 when I started getting involved, I'm very thankful for the opportunity. So that's another thing, get more young people involved, but just keep taking a stand, and liberty is being put forward. Conservative ideas, family values are continuing to be championed. And I think we've got more and more people in the legislature who understand the value of conservative principles, of reform, and of having a state that actually stands up for the people, that recognizes that we the people are who have the power, not the legislature, not the state government doesn't have all the answers, but you have the answers, and we need to listen to you. So that's what we need is for you guys to keep saying that, keep reminding us in the State House about those things. And I think when you will do that, when you will stay engaged and get other people engaged and informed and involved, then that's what's going to make an incredible difference. And South Carolina has such incredible potential that will be unleashed when we, the people, continue to take action. Thank you, Rick, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
First one is right here with John, if you don't mind.
Josiah, there's two things. On the constitutional carry, I wanted to let you know, if you didn't already know, Oklahoma's governor passed constitutional carry and signed it today. Just
Yes,
today.
I didn't know that. I'm very thankful for that.
And on
The
the
14th state, is that right? 14th?
Yep,
So South Carolina now can't be the 14th, but maybe we could be the 15th.
exactly. And on your judicial reform, I don't know how many people know this, South Carolina is one of only 2 states of the 50 that use the method we use. There's
That's
a
right.
reason for that.
That's right.
It's a terrible system.
That's right. We don't, most states have moved away from legislative control of the whole process, which is what South Carolina often has.
I got one real quick.
Yes, sir.
We'll start passing the mic around. There's 2 constitutional carry bills that I understand, 399, 3999, and 3456.
Yes.
Is there, do you know what the difference is between the 2, or is there any difference and it's just two different guys brought the same thing to the floor? Or is there a big difference between the 2?
There's basically 2 main differences that I'm aware of. So Jonathan Hill's bill that he's been pushing for many years is, that's the sort of a solid bill. Bobby Cox has also put forward a bill that I think is pretty good as well. My understanding of the 2 is that they both do, in effect, the same thing. There's some question as far as if Bobby Cox's bill, Bobby says that his bill protects if you own property and you want to keep somebody from carrying on your property, that you're still protected. And what they're saying is that Jonathan's bill, the way it's worded, may not protect that. So there's some question as far as that, but we'll have to figure that out. That's something I'm looking at right now. But then another thing is the question about reciprocity and how we handle that with other folks coming into South Carolina who have a permit and what the requirements would be for them, or if South Carolinians go to other states. So there's some question, there's a little difference between the 2 bills there too.
We would have to keep the permit process in place, so if we went to another state, we could carry it there, right?
Yes, that would be I think the best way to handle it.
I've got 2 questions, one going back to the abortion issue. Is there going to be any provisions for rape and incest?
I don't believe in a rape or incest exception, because I believe that everyone, regardless of how they originate, if they're a human being, that they deserve to be protected. And so you don't punish somebody for the crimes of their parents.
On the carry issue, when I took the test for my permit, we were told where we were allowed to carry, where we weren't, where a private business had to post a sign if they didn't want us carrying them. How are people going to know that if they don't have to take a test?
How are they going to know whether they have to have a sign?
No, but where they can and can't carry, and where that sign has to be posted.
Well, it's still going to be the law. They'll still, you always have a duty to know the law.
Josiah, I think this question is in relation to CWP holders and where they cannot carry.
Yes.
Is it not true under the constitutional carry bills that would not apply? The constitutional carry is permitless carry within the state.
And so that's part of what we were just saying, is that there's a distinction, though, because we do want, at least in my opinion, you'd still want for property owners to be able to say you can't carry on my property if that's what they choose to do. That's their right. But so we're trying to make sure that that's preserved.
Well, the way it is now, you're told that there should be a sign posted either on the door of the business or next to it, and so high above the ground,
Yes, sir.
usually about eye level. If I have to hunt for the sign, it's not legal.
That's true.
Is that the way it's going to continue to be?
That's my understanding. Yes, sir. I don't think anything will change on that.
I would think the only thing that would change is you don't need a permit. All the other rules will stay in place just like they are.
That's correct.
Mr. Owens?
Mine, okay. Thank you for being with us. My question is about the system choosing judges. If I understand your second option, as you mentioned, it would be similar to the Missouri system in which there is a committee or commission that chooses a judge. After 1 year, he has to run on the ballot for up or down vote. And the up or down vote, if he wins, he will get one session of 5 years or something like that. Is that anything like your second option?
The Missouri plan is different than either of those options, but there's sort of, they're both included in a way in the Missouri plan. The Missouri plan is an interesting idea. There's arguments for and against it, but I agree that it does have merit. And like you said, it basically allows for the governor to appoint a judge for 2 years, in my understanding, 2 years, and then they have a retention election where they just have an up or down vote popularly on that person. And basically the judge, they're not allowed to spend money in the race. It's just an up or down vote of what the people want. And so that eliminates a little bit of that politics and personalities. And then if they get the yes vote, then they get 10 years on the bench. So it may be that would be a good option. We'll keep studying it.
Was that the second option that you mentioned?
No, it's a different thing. The second option that I mentioned deals with the Judicial Merit Selection Commission and its makeup. Who is allowed to sit on that commission, which chooses the candidates to be a judge.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My fallback position is always go to James Madison, he'll explain it to you. I think.
Thank you for being here. I'm one of your supporters. Support Jonathan Hill. And I've been following the concealed carry. It's very obvious to me what they did in Columbia today. They scheduled that hearing so there would be no hearing. So since we didn't get a hearing, do you think that there's going to be a hearing? I mean, we've got to have a hearing to get it on the docket apparently, and they scheduled it so that they would not get a hearing on it today. So what's the recourse now?
Well, the recourse is we're going to continue to ask for a hearing, for a true hearing. It's anybody's guess as far as what will actually happen out of that. I know that the House leadership is not supportive of basically Jonathan. They think that he's a troublemaker, and so it's a shame that that's the way a lot of times things work in Columbia. It's about personalities, and it's kind of like, you heard the saying, "It's all a big club and you're not in it." It's kind of how it works sometimes. It shouldn't be petty like that, but a lot of times that's how it works. So I don't know whether they will allow anything that Jonathan puts forward to get through, but I think what Jonathan may end up doing, we know what he did before, right? Which was he asked for it to be recalled out of committee, made a motion on the floor. If he makes that motion, I'll support it. I will vote to bring it to the House floor because it does deserve to be debated.
Is there anything we can do to see that happen?
Well, the biggest thing that you can do on any bill, regardless of whether it's constitutional carry, judicial reform, personhood, education, whatever it may be, though, is first of all talk to your own representative, and then second of all talk to the folks who are in charge of those committees. So this would be Peter McCoy in this case. Peter McCoy is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. And that's the best, sort of the most targeted approach you can take, is to talk to that person and say, here's why we believe this merits discussion.
So do you think Mr. Cox's bill will get a hearing? Would that be a different hearing?
It could be. They would have to schedule, regardless, they would have to schedule it. It's their decision. It's McCoy and then the House Speaker, Jay Lucas. It's pretty much up to them as far as what gets a hearing and what doesn't. So once they schedule a hearing on constitutional carry, they'll likely address both bills at the same time.
In my opinion, I don't think it's going to happen.
It will only if the people of South Carolina want it to happen.
I have a thanks for being here, Josiah. With regards to the educational reform bill,
Yes, ma'am.
you may or may not know the answer to this. I just saw yesterday there was a press release released with Molly Spearman and the governor and I think some members of the education committee. And one of the things that she mentioned was duty-free lunch, and that doesn't necessarily apply to any of us in this room, but it does apply to teachers. And that's something that teachers have been screaming for, is can I please, have a break to go get lunch? Did you see if that, because I know it was requested by her, and I saw that in, do you know what I'm talking about?
So I know there's the Teacher's Bill of Rights, but I don't know if that's included. I will have to check.
Okay, I just knew, I wondered if it was one of the amendments, and Rex may know, but it was yesterday, and I know McMaster and Molly Spearman, and I saw Senator Henry was standing there, and it was just, one of the things she mentioned is that the teachers needed duty-free lunch. And I know there were some amendments made to the House bill, but I didn't know if that was one of them or not.
I mean, I know that teachers don't always get treated the best, and I would support a pay increase for them. The question I would think though is, why are they not being treated right? And a lot of times, why do administrators get so much more than what teachers get? And my belief is that this could all be solved with school choice. Because if you push schools and school districts to compete, and truly compete, then they're going to have to make decisions that are actually going to benefit their core people, not just their top administrators.
And sir, since we're on education, just out of curiosity, through this whole discussion on education in Columbia, have you heard of anybody in the Republican Party, an elected Republican in Columbia, even mention or bring up or argue for what's in the Republican Party platform? School choice, the money following the child. I mean, we've got a bunch of Republicans down there, and that's been the Republican Party position since Ronald Reagan. Has anybody even brought that reform up to maybe do a pilot program to see if it might actually work? I mean,
It does work.
Yeah, it does work. We won't support, or we don't, as a country and a society, we don't support monopolies in any other part of our culture or our economy. So why would we think that a monopoly would work for education, a government-controlled monopoly, when it doesn't work for anything else?
Right. We've got something called Exceptional SC, which is you mentioned like a pilot program. That's kind of how that works for special needs. We'd like to expand that. There's a couple options for it. There's the tuition, the tax credit scholarship. I support that, age 3202. That would sort of be wide open. Then there's also ESAs, education savings accounts, and that would be sort of an expansion of what's already in law. Either one is a huge step forward.
It'll be a step in the right direction for sure, but it would be nice to see people who get elected under the Republican banner actually try to legislate Republican principles that the party's been standing for forever.
That's right.
And it's not, I'll say this and then I'll give somebody else a microphone. It's not an attack on public education. It would, if you believe Milton Friedman and his principles, conservative principles and the free market principle, it would improve public education.
That's right.
Competition improves everybody.
That's right.
But,
And there's what the ESAs are proposing is to take the state money that would go to the school for the child, let the money follow the child, and be able to be used in a separate account, like a bank account, for educational needs. And then the local money, there would actually be more local school board money available for a smaller amount of kids, if you think about it.
yeah, the amount of money per child would go up.
That's exactly right.
One child would leave, but he'd leave money behind. He wouldn't take it all of it.
Right.
Exactly.
So you actually are improving things for both sides. You're improving things for the kids that are still involved. There's more money to spend for the children that are still in the school, and there's more options. Money that's being spent, it's less money total, but it's more flexible money. It's money that can be spent better because it's being spent by the parents who understand their child's needs.
Absolutely. And I'll just close my thoughts on it with this. As a Republican Party county chair, it is my job to promote the platform, and I wouldn't want this job if I didn't believe in the platform. And to me, that extends to somebody that runs as a Republican. If I couldn't support the majority of the principles in general, I wouldn't run as a Republican. But that's just me.
You know what the term rhino means?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're
Okay.
Anybody else have a question?
I'll go.
Steve.
Steve has.
It's not on.
Nearly everybody in the House put their name on 3579. I notice you haven't, thank you, because it's got some flaws. But with that many sponsors, is there any chance of taking out a lot of the bad things? We don't like this 0 to 20, monitor a kid, the combination of a workforce and education database, all those things that are just big government creeping in. You had mentioned a little while ago about something about just directing students, towards certain jobs. Is there any chance of cleaning up stuff like that?
The chance for cleaning it up is quickly slipping away, but there is still a chance. We think we will have some more amendments in the House. I may introduce some of my own. I actually talked to the governor's office this afternoon about the 0 to 20 committee. We're going to circle back around about that. I happen to believe there's one senator who may not like the 0 to 20. And so we'll talk with him about that more as well. So I think that the thing about the name itself is not... Think about what 0 to 20 means. That's age 0 to age 20. What they're saying is we want the government involved in a child's life from age 0 to age 20. And they're trying to push, they've been trying to push this early childhood education earlier and earlier and earlier, K4, now K3. Well, with this bill, it's now K0 apparently. And that's terrible. That's unacceptable. And that is not how you raise a free country, the next generation of freedom-loving citizens. So we need to not allow for that. And the idea of the committee, supposedly what they're saying is this is just a coordination between some of the existing education groups, the EOC and the Department of Education and the Commission on Higher Education and so forth, that we want them to all talk to each other. Well, you don't need a committee on top of committees, a new bureaucracy to do all of that. You could just use one person. And my newest thought is, why not have the lieutenant governor do it? She doesn't have any other stated role, and that's what the governor is saying right now, that he wants the role of that office to be, is basically to talk and to work with other people, bring people together. So it's a thought.
There are opportunities, I don't know if you're aware, with the House, I think there are no longer opportunities for the public to come out and, if those meetings are closed. The Senate, the Rex speaks for us, the Senate has got 4 meetings throughout the state.
I can't hear you.
I'm normally really loud. I was just gonna say, it's on. The House has closed the opportunity for the public to speak out on behalf of the bill.
That's right.
However, the Senate has got 4 times throughout the state that I'm aware of that it's super important. If there's something in the bill, just like throughout the entire state, there's 4 locations coming up where individuals can come, and it's my understanding that the Senate is looking to make changes, and Rex, you can speak more to that, but it's my understanding that they are looking to make positive changes to the bill. So all I'm saying, and I'm speaking on behalf of education over here as far as the local District 6 only, but there are some concerns in the bill, and it'd be a great opportunity for people to get involved, and just like what you said, go to Columbia, because we can't make changes sitting here, sending an email or posting on Facebook. It's going to get nobody anywhere. So that's just my thought, but there are 4 opportunities throughout the state coming up, so if you're very nice. I know Gaffney, McCormick, and Gaffney are the next coming up. Gaffney, you can speak more.
Here you go, Rick.
Sit down. Let me just follow up on that. I do know we've got McCormick Monday night, I think a week from Monday night, I checked my schedule, meeting in Gaffney. I'm not sure if I've got the dates right. Got McCormick, Gaffney, we're gonna meet, there's actually a meeting in Georgetown, I believe, and another one, Bishopville. Those are public meetings. Not all those are on Monday nights. I think one of them's on a Thursday night. And then we are meeting, the Senate Subcommittee, Education Subcommittee is meeting every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock in that building, and dealing with a different subject every time. So you can watch the agenda on that online and keep up with that. So if you have something such as the 0 to 20 committee, you can know it's going to be on the agenda that week. But we are spending a lot of time on it.
Anything else that we've talked about here tonight that you'd like to comment on? That you can kind of put you on the spot.
I'll listen some more. How about that?
That's fine. The 0 to 20 thing, is any part of that, well, after a certain age, 6 or 7 years old, it's mandatory to go to school, but in that 0 to 6 first grade, where does it start being mandatory that you have to put your kid in it?
Supposedly, it's not mandatory for kindergarten at all, is my understanding. So, but there's more and more pressure to make it mandatory. I personally don't agree with that. So, I think kids need to have time to be kids. And I think that they need time with their parents. So that, I don't believe in this type of thing where we get them involved in government, as soon as we can. Sorry.
Yeah, let me,
What's that? And I'm not saying it's not a problem. I know there's problems, and I know that I don't have all the answers. But I don't think that the just more state control of the issue is the answer. I just can't believe that.
Not to sound flip or too casual about this, but I've got one answer to most of this. More freedom is always better. And the primary function, in my world, the primary function of government is supposed to be to protect and ensure our basic freedoms and rights. And anytime you tell me I have to do something, you're infringing on my rights. All regulations and all laws infringe on my rights, some good, some bad, but every regulation is an infringement on my freedom. It's telling me I have to do something. So anyway, there's that. Go ahead.
I'm gonna talk about education, because I talked about concealed carry. But now I watched all 5 hours of the testimony that they had down there in Columbia. And there's a couple of things I took away from that. Number one, the legislatures and the attorneys in Columbia came up with this deal. Another thing I came out with is it has not been addressed in South Carolina in 10 or 20 years. It's going to be addressed this year, and whatever comes out of it, it ain't going to be addressed again for 10, 20 more years, probably. So you got to get it right. And I'm like you. I think I'm seeing some things in there that may be going in the right direction, but I don't see how in the world they can come up with this short a time without input from teachers, which that was the main complaint. Testing was another main complaint of all the people during that 5 hours. Too much testing, too much time away from the students, not teaching. And if we don't get it right this time, then it's going to be 10 or 20 years. Now, there's 2 other things that are coming up. One of those is competency-based education. That's separate from the education bill. And there's another one that's coming up, another bill, which is data collection. But they both affect education. They're going to be affected collecting data on these kids from 0 all the way through school to determine what they should do with their life. Competency-based education is turning around and putting testing that they're taking out now and putting it right back in. And so how do you feel about competency-based education and the data collection?
The competency-based education, I think that I don't know if I know enough about it to say for sure. I think that the verdict is still out a little bit on it. I think that the goal is worthy, which is to allow for students who are high achievers to go on and to fulfill their potential, you know, and not be held back. CBE is sort of the opposite of No Child Left Behind. It's sort of like saying, you know, if you are a gifted student, then yes, you can go on to the next grade without having to be held back because the rest of your class don't understand it. So I think that is probably a good part of it. I think what you're saying about if it adds more testing and that kind of stuff, I wouldn't support that part of it. So I think it needs to be a little bit more flexible for the teachers and so forth to be able to say, well, this student can go on and not be so standardized and trying to get, you know, square peg round hole. So I think that's probably the bigger concern is that we're not, again, putting so much more control on, you know, the classroom. As far as the data warehouse thing, though, that is something that I'm very much against because, again, that goes back to that earlier point I made about my concern is the state is getting to this point where we think we have to direct students to certain jobs because these are the industries that are coming down the pike and these are what the corporate interests want. And that is not liberty. That is, the market should be able to handle that. Okay? If the state would take their hands off and train people to be good citizens, good thinkers, good skilled learners, and that sort of thing, and have the core subjects, you know, done right, then those workers would be able to be trained correctly. You had, you know, the right kind of discipline in the classroom and so forth. You had the right family values at home. Those are things that we would have a population that could do anything. But instead, the state is now trying to say, here is the jobs that this student needs to go toward, this is his aptitudes, this is what we think he can do right. And it sounds like China.
Firstly, I hope both of those students play going against what we're trying to do. Both of them going against the education we're trying to get to the right. I think they're diametrically opposed.
And the data warehouse is going back to that issue, you're right that it starts at A0. Again, it's from the earliest ages, the state wants to know as much as they can about a person so that they know where to direct them to go for work.
But they're going to do that to us too, not just these little kids.
That's right, that's right.
They're going to do it to you and Rick.
That goes back.
That is correct. I know that's right.
Does that go back to the competency-based, the CBE thing too? You test the kids to find out what kind of career they're best suited for, and then you aim them at that career, and that's what you teach them to do, rather than letting them pick what they want to be. You test them to figure out what their aptitude is for whatever, and that's what you teach them to be. If that's
that part of it may be, that part of it I wouldn't agree with. But
I could be wrong, but that was my understanding. That was part of it.
My understanding that is far greater than just the education part and developing a state workforce wherein you begin the record in school and going up, but it's far, far broader than just that. It's invasion of property, property you have, your driving record, things like that, invasion of privacy in general. It's a very dangerous bill.
it is.
Also, it has practically no protection relative to other state agencies can come in and get data on me, anyone in this room, if they wanted the data. And also, there has been questions about the medical information may be included in this data warehouse. That's none of the state's business. So this bill really, really needs to be court and put under forever. It's a bad idea.
It's a path to socialism and communism.
I just meant to say that was
Sounds
Mr.
like
Dan. That was Mr. Dan Winchester. He's one of the leaders of the Pickens County Taxpayers Association and one of the smartest guys I know. So he bears listening to.
That proves you.
And he has a good sense of humor.
That wasn't hard.
On this data collection, warehousing, and testing for what they do, this reminds me of something I used to be involved with. I was a military recruiter as one of my past lives. There's this little thing called the ASVAB test. Whenever you go into the military, you take a test, a long test. It takes almost a day and a half to do the whole thing. When you get done with it, the military decides what your career in the military is going to be. I don't think we want our society to be like the military.
I know I don't, and I think that you may, that might be something to talk to people in Columbia about and explain, like, this is where, that this is something that has been tried, and this is something that has been already done, and this is not where we want to go. On second thought, don't do that because you don't want to give them any ideas.
Well, the military's still doing it. They do it every day. That's the way they always determine what a person's career field is. It's been that way. Well, I was a recruiter in the 70s, and they're still doing it right now. The military is not a democracy. The military is not a republic. The military is a chain of command. It's a chain of command.
Right.
And we don't need that in society in general. That's good for the military, but not for the rest of us.
Right.
So,
When I was a senior in high school, the military recruiters came to the school and gave us that test, a version of it, to try to show us what our possibilities would be in the military so they could recruit. I could do everything in the Air Force but be a pilot.
well, you
I wouldn't fly the airplane, so forget it.
You wear glasses.
Anybody else got a question or a comment? Or?
You was a space cadet.
Yeah, right. I'm still a space cadet.
We need more.
I will say this, in 1997, my daughter was first, second grade, thereabout, and I got involved with the school choice. That's what drew me into politics to begin with, being politically active. And Lewis Bond was in the Senate then, I believe, and he had a committee that went around the state like they're doing now, taking, listening to people on education. But this was specifically for school choice. And the movement was getting pretty serious. And to at least get a pilot program started in part of the state, somewhere in the state, to try it out. So they came up with, this was in 1997, they came up with a 12-year plan to improve education in 1997. What happened to that 12-year plan? It's like you were talking about a while ago, that if you don't do, it's the same thing over and over and over again. Every time you get close to some real reform, they come up with some kind of a big plan, a big idea, but what's the saying? The more things change, the more they stay the same.
If it don't work, then you're 20 years down the road before you look at it again.
Well, that was in
This
96.
thing really needs to be looked at, and I wouldn't care if they delayed it for years, But maybe we jumped up a little bit too quick. Let's look at it and make some good changes so that it'll last for a year.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be done immediately.
Yeah.
Put it off for a year.
It probably deserves that kind of consideration. I mean, and I think when we really think about the problems that we do face with education in South Carolina, there has been a lot of research done, but there needs to be some serious thinking and some probably serious gut check from some people to say, we want to pass a bill that just looks like we've done something good, or we really, really, really want to make South Carolina education work for the next generation. Are we really willing to take some steps, and is this going to be a conservative idea, a Republican idea, or is this really going to just be kowtowing to Democrats, or even worse, is it going to just be, again, a show? Unfortunately, a lot of things in Columbia, my assessment, having been there now more than 2 years, is that a lot of things are done for optics. And that's one of my biggest frustrations, is that you'll find that bills are passed in order to look like we've accomplished something. And we need to get away from that. We need to take a stand. We need to realize that we are on the right side of the issues. And you and I can accomplish so much, but we need to be willing to not back down. We do have the truth, we do have the heritage, we do have the values that will make America strong again. And that's what the Republican Party is about. And you and I, and Senator Rice, and all of the others that are standing up for what's right, are going to make a difference. But we cannot stop. Don't quit. Keep doing what you're doing. Be faithful and well-doing, as Scripture says. For in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you. Close things up real quick. One announcement I forgot to remind people of is March the 26th, there will be an election for our Davisville School Board seat. Philip Healy right here will be on the ballot, and I encourage everybody that lives in that area to go vote and participate. One other thing, just one second. I don't want anybody to think that I'm sliding the Pickens County delegation. They all, the House members in Pickens County, all have a standing invitation to come to. I have told them personally that they have a standing invitation to come and speak at any of our meetings anytime they want to. I invited Judge Clary to come speak tonight before I talked to Josiah. He had a previous engagement. Neil knows, and I sent Neil my message and told him he's welcome to come anytime. He has a standing invitation, as well as David Knight. They are all welcome to come. This is not having Josiah come from the House is not intended as any kind of slight towards those guys. They are always welcome here. This is their party too, and they're welcome to come speak. I would encourage all of you to invite your friends and family to come out to our reorganization emails, and we'll be going out. The state party is going to get involved in helping us promote this thing with robocalls and social media and a bunch of other stuff. But tell your friends, tell your family, come out and get involved. We actually have a little fun every once in a while. And we don't get mad at you if you disagree with me. I mean, if you disagree with me, that's fine. We can agree to disagree. Me and Alan do it every day. All the time. Love him like a brother, but we love to argue with one another. Yes, sir.
We've got a little bit of time.
Sure, what you need.
Give him the mic.
I've been through one of these reorganizations, but I'm not sure everybody understands what it is.
Okay, reorganization is we will have all of the precincts, there's 61 precincts in Pickens County, where you go vote is your precinct, and there's 61 precincts in Pickens County. We will have everybody, all 61 precincts will meet at the United Wesleyan Church on March 28th, and we will hand you out an envelope, and everybody that's in your precinct will sit down together, and you will elect a president and an executive committeeman from your precinct, as well as delegates to the county convention, which will be the next one. If you're not a delegate to the convention, then you won't be able to vote for me or Elliot or whoever is on the ballot for running for the county offices. And you will, at the reorg, you will elect the people that speaks for your precinct. So when we have an executive committee meeting on a resolution or whatever, any kind of party business, you can come and vote and have a voice in what is said and what is done.
There's one-time cost to this, right?
Right. It's a $10 fee to be a delegate to the delegate to the convention. $10 to be a delegate to the convention, so you can vote and participate.
That's the county party convention.
Right, the county party convention, not the state. That's the county party convention. It's a $10 fee.
Not the one involved.
Not the one in March. Well, that's when you pay it.
Yeah. Oh, that's when
You pay it in March, so you can participate in April.
Okay. So,
And we take checks, we take credit cards, we take debit cards, and we take cash.
we'll bring mine to Kenny.
Okay.
On the fee, there is a different,
Just say, do what.
there is a different fee to be a delegate to the state convention, so there is another fee you'll have to deal with.
Yeah,
Once we have that
You
information.
pay the state fee at the convention, right? You know?
We have to elect our delegate.
We elect them and they pay, prior to the state
The delegates
convention,
pay.
and you can pay online or when you arrive at the convention hall.
That's right, I painted Commissioner Hall last time, or when I wasn't the chairman. Yes, Mr. Owens, Professor.
Rick, I have, it's been 2 years. You've been chairman 2 years now. I have watched you, and as a former chairman, I just want to commend you for a fine job that you have done. You have been fair with all of us, and a lot of chairmen would just do the minimum amount, but you put yourself into it. You know me in little ways, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate it.
Very good. That's very kind of you.
To be able to come in and read and vote, you have to have a voter registration card?
You have to, we need your voter ID number. If you have your voter ID card, please bring it. But if you don't, Mr. Haney here will be there with a laptop computer, and he will be able to look you up and find your voter ID number. But it makes it go a lot smoother and a lot easier if you can your voter ID number with you. Because, you know, if he has to look up 100 people, you know, bless his heart, that wouldn't be, you know. Bring your card if you can find it, but if you've misplaced it, we can look you up.
This clears up a lot of things I can say.
Okay.
So, each precinct can get a committee member, a president, a vice president, and a second vice president.
We haven't got enough people to do it.
If we get enough 4 people come from all these precincts, we get a lot of people.
But, if you go to an executive, just like me and Elliot go to Columbia, okay? We're both on the state executive committee. He's the executive committeeman, I'm the chairman of the county party. But we only have one vote. He's the executive committeeman, he gets the vote, I don't, unless he's not there. And then I can vote in his place. But the same thing with the precinct. If the executive committeeman, you got the executive committeeman and the president. If the executive committeeman is there and we vote on something, the president doesn't get to vote, just the executive committee. You got one vote per precinct.
I understand, but participation, I guess, is where I'm coming from. If we could get 4 people from every precinct, we could have a very strong party that could affect politics in this county. This county has got some rhinos in it.
Well, yes, sir, but if we had 4 people from every precinct that would come to the meetings and participate and show up, and knock on doors and get out in the campaign and actually get involved, it would be wonderful. And we'll try our best to get as many people involved as we can.
And there's going to be a big push from the state party on the numbers of people that would get involved. We have a goal at the EC and the state party of the number of people that we'd like to see join the party across the state over this reorg cycle. And they're going to be doing a lot of things, putting a lot of money into making sure that we meet those goals. So I have no doubt that we're going to have a great turnout, especially here in Pickens County. But invite your friends, invite them all, and we're going to make sure that we turn out as many people as we can.
And I should mention that Elliot just had the honor and privilege, I should say, of being appointed to the state platform committee. So he will be involved in working on the state platform, and which is in the process now of, you probably like this, Rex, they're going to streamline the platform. Instead of it being like a book where everything is editorialized in the platform, get it down to a pamphlet with bullet points so you can show it to somebody and they can see it at a glance and see what the platform principles are without having to read a book to figure it out. So, anything else that you don't know about it that you'd like to know?
I'll add one thing. Rick already announced he's going to be running again. I'm going to be seeking another term as your executive committeeman. I think I've served you well over this last time. If you don't have any questions, you know that you're always available to reach out to me. I'm glad to explain that. I think that my email updates to you have kept me updated of what's going on over at the meetings, and I'll be seeking another term and hope to have your support. If you have any questions, talk to me.
And while we just a minute or two here, Alan does rodeos at the T.Ed Garrison Arena. And you've got one, what, Friday, Saturday night this week?
Should be down there right now.
If you're a kid at heart like me, rodeos are fun. That's just a fun one. And my friend, Diane's last name is Hardy. Diane Hardy is doing the Palmetto panel again this year in Clemson. Saturday, March 9th from 10 to 5:30. It's $55 including breakfast and lunch. And she has a, look it up on Facebook, Palmetto Panel, She has a list of speakers as long as your arm, and not one of them bad. It's worth your time to go. If you want to put a little something in the new worth knowing, go down and spend the afternoon with them, or the day with them. And now you won't be able to feel that. You won't meet that final person down in person. She was a nice lady. Anybody got anything else? We talked about everything, Mike. So anybody got anything else they'd like to throw out before we say goodnight?
If Diane makes a mean cake.
Yeah. And we always take contributions. Anybody wants to help us, you know, we like I said, we take checks and credit cards, and cash, pennies, piggy banks. Excuse me.
Pickens County GOP.
Pickens,
Pickens SC?
Oh, the website?
No, check.
Oh, the check.
Pickens County GOP, that works.
Okay. And that's the same one, write our $10 check or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you do that?
Right.
Thank you guys for coming out. I enjoyed it. You good crowd. Thank you, Josiah.